Okay, so I'm here with former cricketer now, Jonathan Southgate, who's best known as Goat at Downend Cricket Club. Um, Goat, firstly, could you just tell the viewers about tell the listeners about your first early memories at Downend Cricket Club, if that was your first club?
Yeah, hi Ollie. So I always remember I've been a Downend boy. My parents moved there when I was about sort of 3-4 years old, and I always remember sort of an early memory. Sort of when I was about 8 years old, I could sort of walk past the ground, sort of with my mum, sort of going up to the shops and stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd always wanted to sort of play there, but I didn't actually sort of really start playing for Downend until I was about 11 years old.
Okay.
My first club was actually Hambrook Cricket Club. I went to the primary school there, and effectively Chris Wellman, who was one of the old first team captains, I think he actually captained Alan Border. He's a family friend, and he sort of said to my dad, "Look, he's a Downend boy. You should be playing for Downend, really." They've got a very good coach down at Downend called Robin Smith, who I think your dad actually mentioned in his podcast.
Yeah.
And effectively, he said, "Look, get him down to Downend." So I played for Downend really from under 13s all the way up through, obviously to the senior side. So yeah, that's sort of how it all started. And Robin was brilliant. I mean, he'd have us training even throughout the winter, even if it was tipping down with rain. We'd still go to the cricket club and use the swing ball sessions. He used to have sort of he made a contraption which was a ball in a sock, which he'd put up in the changing rooms, and sort of that's how he'd sort of originally teach us sort of all our techniques and things like that. And he'd even sort of make us do weights even at sort of the age of 11 and 12 for sort of our bowling actions, which obviously a lot of the guys will remember who've been at Downend for a while.
So from your early memories to probably when you first erupted into the senior sides, can you remember any debuts or any moments?
Yeah, so actually my first official debut was actually meant to be after a under-15s cup final on a Sunday. I think Jamie Skinner was captain at the time, and I think sort of the first team obviously was short of a few players, so he came up to have a look at the final, and in that team was myself, Ian McEwen, Andrew Oldacre, John Pick, and obviously he just sort of came up to see if anybody was available, because it was a cup match in the afternoon against Clifton Flaxporton.
Okay.
So effectively he came in and he said, "Oh, look, is anybody available?" I was available, so he sort of said, "Right, come up to the ground this afternoon. We're playing Clifton Flaxporton." Went up to the ground, and then it started tipping down with rain. Clifton Flaxporton had sort of the likes of JJ Lewis, obviously played for Gloucestershire, Matt Windows playing for Gloucestershire, Bobby Dawson, and because it was sort of tipping down with rain, we actually decided to play a football match because it actually got called off. And that's just sort of my first memory, really. Although it's sort of my real sort of debut, it's not something that we didn't actually play cricket. So my actual official debut, I think, was sort of a couple of years later, and that was sort of under Ian Webb, and that was away at Chippenham, which obviously is a lovely ground, and got introduced to Black Rat, which is the cider they've got on tap there. And yeah, really sort of that was the start of it, really. I remember that was my first team debut, was away at Chippenham with the likes of, obviously your dad was playing, and Matt Jackson, Phil Jackson, Ian Webb. So that was the first time sort of in the first team, really. And I mean, sort of I made sort of my second team sort of debut actually with Bob Hefford. And again, it was against Clifton Flaxporton, funny enough, away.
Did it rain?
And, sorry, what was that?
Did it rain?
No, it didn't. No. So Bob was captain, and it had the likes of John Perry in the team.
Yeah.
Rich Roberts. I think Tyke was playing at the time as well, Mike Richmond.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sort of been quite fortunate, really, and sort of a lot of the players sort of that have sort of been there, really, have obviously been sort of quite sort of senior and sort of been through it, really. So it's quite nice, obviously, to have them sort of while I was growing up, to be honest. So yeah, that's sort of how it all started. And then Chris Maguire came as captain, and that's when I sort of started getting regularly into the second team.
Okay.
So yeah, Chris Maguire was I think he was a journalist actually for Bristol Post. So So yeah, that's how I sort of started every single week in that second team, and then went on from there really.
Okay, so I think I remember messaging you probably last year about doing this, and I don't think I ever got round to doing it. But you did mention a story about your foot, after the under-15s final when it rained, and something happened during the football match.
Yeah, so actually, it all got a bit competitive, and one of our players did a slide tackle, which he had his cricket boots on at the time, and actually one of the Gloucester cricket players actually sort of had a massive cut down his leg. So we had to we basically got told to stop, and that was the end of the football match actually.
Who was the player?
Phil Jackson.
Brilliant. What was it like playing at Downend at quite a young age in quite a high standard?
It was yeah, I'd say it was very very nice, and effectively I found it tough. I mean, I think sort of where I sort of struggled really was more with the mental side of everything, to be honest.
Okay.
And that's where I sort of still really continue to struggle. I think sort of going from a youth team player going into a senior player, I always wanted obviously to do really well, and effectively I think that's where I struggled a little bit is just sort of concentration and things like that. That's what I struggled with really, and I say I think that's what let me down a little bit really.
Can you just tell me about one of the best captains that you've played under at Downend?
Yeah, so I think sort of for me, really, the most interesting time really for me was when Ponce first took over as captain.
Yeah.
That season was unbelievable, really. I think sort of so I was in my early 20s. I think I sort of just finished school, actually, sort of 19, 20, something like that. And effectively, we lost the first game of the season of that season, and effectively it was against Westbury District over in Wiltshire, and I think they had Jack Rudolph's brother playing for them at the time. So we lost that first game of the season, but then we didn't lose another game all year.
Right.
And I think that was your dad's last season as well, actually. So it was brilliant because the camaraderie we sort of had within that team and the spirit was something really that I sort of cherished for sort of the rest of my time, really, because it was just brilliant. Although we sort of played sort of hard on a Saturday, it was really nice as well because we always used to go out on an evening on a Saturday night as well. And like I say, as a 20-year-old, it was just really really fond memories. So yeah, I think sort of one of the best memories as well of that season is I think sort of in the last game we played against Knoll.
Yeah.
And I mean we batted pretty much all the way down to 11. And on the last game of the season, Ponce decided we'd already sort of won the league. We decided to actually reverse the batting order.
Yeah.
And we bowled Knoll out, I think, for something like 65, 70, something like that. And we still won one wicket down, I think. So, yeah, I mean, what was sort of quite funny about that, I think I went in at number 3 that day. And effectively, we always, obviously, with fines and things like that, whoever got the lowest score had to collect the team money.
Yeah.
And it got to sort of the last over. I think I sort of had about 3 balls to face, and I must have been sort of quite a few runs behind Rich Pandya. And effectively, sort of, I actually managed to score enough runs so that I didn't collect the team money. So yeah, it was brilliant. And like I say, that sort of was really sort of the team that, and sort of the captain, sort of Ponce. So I think he sort of speaks for himself, really, as sort of many people have sort of said, to be honest. And just him and Matt Jackson that season, when Ponce was sort of standing up to him on the stumps, they just sort of had that kind of that kind of sort of connection, really, and that Matt would sort of sometimes even sort of bowl a wide, in which case and Ponce would whip the stumps off, and the batsman was given out sort of stumped. So it was brilliant, to be honest. So yeah, that's sort of the season that sort of really stands out for me.
It's great that you have fond memories of one season, and such an in particular moment. You and Rich Pandya, the 2 biggest hitters at the club. out in the middle. So, that must have been a great memory to have at such a young age as well, playing at that standard. You've been on many tours at Downend.
Yep.
And I spoke to Miles a few days ago about a few good tours that he organised and that John Thompson organised, who I can remember meeting, and God rest his soul, apparently he was a legend. Were there many tours that stand out for you? Any funny moments?
Yeah, so I didn't really start going on the tours, to be honest, until I was about 17, 18. And
still young.
And a couple of the tours that sort of stood out for me. I mean, there's obviously the traditional sort of Blackpool, Manchester tours that they have, and we also did a Devon tour.
Okay.
And the Devon tour for me was quite funny initially. So we played a couple of games. I think we played against Paynton, where someone was hitting sixes for fun, and they've got a train track running along the side of Paynton Cricket Club, and they kept on hitting the trains, and you had one of the guards actually there sort of shouting across the cricket pitch saying stop hitting the balls over here and stuff like that. And also as well, we played a club called Babbacombe, I think it was, and it's one of the weirdest grounds that I've ever played at. It was like a bowl basically, so you had the cricket pitch at the bottom in the middle, which was flat, and then the whole of the boundary was raised all the way round. so you had people sort of hitting sort of through the covers, and it would get to the top of the boundary, but it wouldn't actually go over the line, so the ball would actually roll back down the hill. so yeah, it was quite a frustrating ground, but I'd say it's sort of one of the most interesting grounds that sort of I played at. And also as well, sort of one thing that stands out for me on one of the cricket tours is the Blackpool Manchester, when obviously Ponce, known as sort of the wicket keeper, he was sort of brilliant, and I think he sort of broke records on that season. I mentioned he broke Louis Phillips' record of the amount of dismissals in a season.
Yeah.
And someone, after a few drinks, bowled a pool ball at him, which was orange, and it came off the road, and he didn't realise that it was a pool ball, and he thought it was an orange originally, and it just went straight into his head, and he just went, "Oh, that's not an orange." So yeah, it was. There's a few obviously funny memories, but as I say, it'd be nice as well for hopefully sort of them to continue and see some tours obviously coming up in the future as well.
Yeah, 100%. And you spoke about Ponce being one of the funniest moments. As many of you would have listened, and as you listened, Ponce came over as an overseas in 2000. And we'll stay on the topic of overseas players at the moment, where you played with many at Downend. Can you just name one or two of your favourite ones you've played alongside? Not just because of the person that they are, but the quality of cricket the talent that they have.
Yeah, I think for me, really, sort of when Ponce was keeping, I mean, it was just a different class, to be honest. I mean, you'd sort of see him sort of take balls, and you'd sort of think, blimey, and he's whipped the stumps off, and the batsman's been given out. But also as well, for me as well, Vishnu that season, who came over, he was a friend of AJ's, I think, at the time, and he was a left arm medium to fast bowler, and he would just put it on the spot every single time, no matter who the batsman was, and so I think that was the key really for that season, is that we just used to build up pressure on the opposing team, and I think sort of that was part of my role really in the team, was sort of as a sort of young whippersnapper at the time. Was I always remember sort of Ponce saying to me, "Come on, get yourself a run out," and I sort of was fielding sort of quite close and stuff like that, and effectively it was just about sort of building up pressure on that team so that then they'd make a mistake. And I mean, it was just, I say, for him to put that ball on the spot sort of every single time, it was brilliant. I think he came back then for a couple of years, and you had sort of other teams in the leagues that were after him as well, sort of trying to sort of coax him to go over to them next year and things like that. But those two players I felt as though sort of really were standout performers. I say from just as a youngster, sort of looking at them really.
Brilliant. Before I move on to two questions that I've received actually from my dad, who asked me who I was doing. I said, I'm doing Goat. He said, I've got two questions for Goat. So before we go any further, you're now retired, I believe. Why?
So unfortunately last year I obtained an injury which I was keeping in the second team, and a ball was thrown in from the boundary, and it was not only just sort of, it was a bit my fault as well, to be honest. In that, effectively, I just sort of went to catch the ball on the half volley.
Oh.
And I smashed a joint in my hand. So effectively, the joint's in sort of loads of tiny bits of pieces, and the surgeon has effectively said sort of really the only way that they can get it sorted properly is to replace the joint. So I decided to say that's it for me, and to pass it effectively, obviously let the youngsters still continue to come through as sort of they do it Downend, really.
Do you reckon you'll miss the playing side of things?
I'll definitely miss the playing side of things, but I'm sure I'll be up there most weekends.
Yeah.
Obviously supporting the team, and that's the one thing I don't want to miss out, really, because like I said, I think that's the part and parcel really as well as Downend is the camaraderie, and actually you meet your friends up there, and that's something that I loved as well, in that sort of made sort of friends for life, really, and that's obviously to continue, and sort of all the youngsters, to be honest, they're all mates, they all come through it together. So yeah, for me, it's all about continuing to go up there and support the club.
Brilliant. I'll move on to the two questions that my dad's asked. The first one is, who's the best homegrown player you've played with at Downend?
I think there's a couple, really. I mean, as someone I played with sort of as a youngster was in my age group was John Pick. John got put into the first team, I think, at the age of 16, and he was sort of regularly scoring runs even in the first team, and unfortunately I think he just decided that he wasn't enjoying cricket anymore, and he was playing for sort of the west of England at the time, and Gloucestershire. But yeah, I think sort of John Pick is certainly sort of up there as I say, certainly one of the best sort of youth team players that I played with, as sort of a homegrown kind of chap, really.
Okay, brilliant. And the next question that he asked is, who's the best player that you've played against?
So I think, for a player against, I'm trying to think sort of a tough one. I mean, obviously sort of when you sort of come through and you sort of see some of these players, I think sort of you've got people like Paul Mitchell, who obviously used to play for Downend and then played for Bath. You've got the likes of Michael Coles, who was playing for Corsham, and played for Bridgewater as well, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are the sort of the two that initially kind of like stand out. But yeah, I mean there's been sort of plenty of sort of overseas players as well. I think sort of one of the stories I've got is that we all turned up to training on a Thursday actually, and we were watching Somerset playing in a 2020 on the TV.
Mm.
And we turned up on the Saturday, and there was sort of this guy on the TV on the Thursday bowling at 90 odd mile an hour. And we turned up on the Saturday, and he's opening the bowling for Taunton St Andrews. So yeah, I mean that was obviously I think sort of Ian Webb came in for that game. I think sort of it was the first game he played for a couple of years, and he opened the batting, and he had him to face, and I remember I think first ball he got hit in the ribs.
Oh.
So yeah, I think sort of I think his name was Mark Turner, the chap there. He bowled at about 90 odd mile an hour. Yeah, that was quite in time. But yeah, I mean obviously sort of people playing for Bath, like I think Peter Mc New Zealand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think sort of from a Downend's obviously had some brilliant players playing for them really as well, and I think sort of that's really it. But against it's more sort of those kind of guys that I've mentioned, I think.
Brilliant. And finally, do you think that the club's moving in the right direction on and off the field?
Yeah, I do. I mean, obviously the league's actually, I think the first team league is very different now to even what it was sort of 10, 12, 13 years ago. Obviously it's a lot more professional. And obviously you've got to be able to concentrate and not sort of lose your lapse in concentration. I think, like I say, that's something that I certainly struggled with.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've got to make sure you're on the ball. But yeah, definitely, I say Downend is going in the right direction. Obviously, it's a brilliant place as sort of a young lad sort of growing up and sort of being involved in that club, because, like I say, it sort of really does create sort of brilliant memories. So for me, I do think it is going in the right direction. Obviously, it's difficult times, but hopefully Downend Cricket Club will be okay and go for many years to come.
Goat, thank you very much for spending some time with me, and sorry about the edits that we've had to do during the podcast. Thank you very much, mate.
No problem, Ollie. Cheers.
Cheers.